Israeli foot soldiers. There was one time on the first day he told me, they were walking out in an open field when all of a sudden there was an oncoming fire. And he was with a, there was a group of Palestinians that were being used as human shields. He wasn't alone. So a group of them. So as soon as the oncoming fire came, the Israeli soldiers stood behind. They took Sammy and they took somebody else. They held them close together, and they basically used them literally as human shields, which meant that they would shoot from behind them, they would shoot from between their legs, from over their heads, and they just stood there. And as a human shield, your role is to stand there and take any bullets that come. And so Sammy did this for 4 days. There was times where he would be put in fields. He would be handcuffed and blindfolded and forced to sit in fields for hours at a time. And again, whenever there was oncoming gunfire, the soldiers would again use him and use others as human shields and stand behind them and really try to shoot from behind them. So this is again, and this policy is completely illegal under international law. And it was a policy. I mean, it was a policy. It was something that was known as a policy used by the Israeli military that was outlawed in 2005. Unfortunately, it's still being used until today. So moving on, the second allegation is that Israel was targeting Hamas infrastructure. And again, if you go there, just go there. You can just go there and you can see for yourself just the level of destruction. When you go there, it is like a 10.0 earthquake has attacked or hit Gaza. And literally, you cannot turn around, you cannot do a 360 without seeing a major, something like this. Something where it's like incredible destruction. I remember the first time we went through Rafah, and we were driving into Gaza City, and 2 minutes into the drive, one of the co-delegates, I mean, she basically was like, holy, and we got scared because when we were going through the border, Israel was actually bombing at that point. We were like at the border and there was like huge explosion, and we were like, oh God, let's get out of here. So I thought, everybody in the car kind of jumped because we weren't sure what happened. And what had happened is that she basically saw the first building that was completely demolished. And so, one thing we told her, we're like, if you're going to keep saying that every single time we're going to see a demolished building, you're going to give us a heart attack. Because, we're already like on our last nerve being in Gaza at that point. But basically, when you go to Gaza, it is complete destruction, basically a lot of destruction. And the reality, again, Israel targeted civilian infrastructure. And just like civilians, the idea of proportionality and distinction is still applicable to civilian infrastructure. The same laws apply. The idea that you have to distinguish between civilian infrastructure and non-civilian infrastructure. And even if you are trying to attack a military object or objective, you have to do it. It has to be proportional. You cannot just destroy. You cannot just completely carpet bomb a village because you think or you know that there's a couple of Hamas people inside that village, or a couple of people that are launching rockets outside of that village. It is not okay to completely carpet bomb an entire village. This right here is the Absi family home. This is a home that we visited when we were there. And basically, Israel said they targeted this home because there was a tunnel in the home. That was the allegation. We went there was no tunnels in the home, there was nothing in the home. What there was a family, and you'll actually see their picture at the end. There was a family with a lot of little kids that lived there. And when Israel hit this home, it hit it in the middle of the night, 3 little boys were actually killed from the home. And you'll see their picture later. The mother is actually in a coma right now. I don't know if she's still in a coma, but when we went, she was in a coma because of the level of the explosion. She basically flew out of the home, and they found her in the middle of the street. And she was in a coma in Egypt, and had been about 3 weeks since she had been in that coma. These are some numbers, and honestly, I think these are probably more conservative numbers. These are numbers that came out from very early on, after the end of Operation Cast Lead. But basically, these are some of the numbers of things that are completely destroyed. Not even damaged, but destroyed, like annihilated, wiped out. So you have about 2,400 homes that were completely destroyed. You have 60 police stations that were completely destroyed. 30 mosques that were completely destroyed. 28 public facilities that were completely destroyed. 126 industrial centers that were destroyed, and 36 schools, media, and healthcare centers that were completely destroyed. So again, and this is not including any of the infrastructure that was damaged. Now, out of the 2,400 homes, In addition to the 2,400 homes that were completely destroyed, there's 12,000 homes that were damaged to one extent or another. When you go to Gaza, it is very hard to go into a home or to go to anywhere without seeing some sort of destruction, without seeing bullet holes, without seeing, shattered windows or walls or whatever, crumbling walls. But these, again, are just infrastructure that's completely destroyed. So what you have now is you basically have a complete destruction of civil society. Gazan civil society has been completely destroyed. There's no more industrial centers that function properly. There's very few industrial centers that function properly in Gaza. And so what has happened before Operation Cast Lead, 80% of the population in Gaza required humanitarian aid to survive. And now that all these like public facilities, industries, schools, media centers, a lot of what remained of the livelihood of the Palestinians in Gaza has been completely destroyed at this point. I don't know if that number of needing humanitarian aid has jumped up, but this again putting in the context of all this destruction when you already have a very, very destabilized society. So looking at specific examples, the American International School in Gaza. If you Google this, it's really interesting. The other day I was just Googling, I was doing some research and I was looking this up, and it's really interesting to look at their website. The American International School in Gaza had a website before the attack, and they were very proud of everything they were doing. And looking at their website now, it's completely, you could just see how devastated they are, and how devastated they are for losing this institute. This institute was it was the best school in Gaza. It was a co-ed school. It housed up to 600 students. And it basically had a very Western education and allowed students to learn in English and to learn a lot of these Western sciences so that they could come and they could further their education outside of Gaza. And it was kind of an escape for many people that lived in Gaza at that point. The director, who you'll hear shortly, he said, and he's an American citizen, he's from Chicago, and he moved back to Gaza because he wanted to create this school and to give people in Gaza an out. And unfortunately, the school was attacked and completely destroyed, and I'll let you guys hear him speak about that.
What happened on the morning of Saturday morning, 3rd of January, I received a call from neighbors, actually from their neighbor over there. He said there was, the school was hit and it was completely destroyed by, well, he told me 2 missiles. And I find it hard to believe that this destruction is done by only 2 missiles. If that's true, then it must be a very good missiles. And he said he was concerned about our guard. Actually, we call him a guard watchman. You are a watchman, he's not a guard. We keep somebody in the school at night so he can watch the school. He was concerned about the guy. And he looked after the dust settled. We couldn't find him. And finally, I told him, keep looking. And at that time, Saturday in the morning, at that time, I could not leave my house and come. Otherwise, I have to wait till the daylight, till there is some movement in the streets so I can come. The guy kept looking and we found our watchman. He was by the basketball court, of course, and cut into pieces. And he was, it was very, very tragic event. And the school itself, the grounds, the building of the school was never used by militants. To the best of my knowledge, I cannot give you 100% assurances, but this belief or this statement is supported by testimonies from the neighbors. And I asked all the neighbors, they said, no way. In fact, actually, we came to an understanding with those militants, and that's to keep the school away from this, and they kept their promise. They never bothered us. They never came and said, oh, this is a nice location, let's launch a rocket from here. They never came here. And beside the testimonies of the neighbors and the lack of evidence, there is a really, we did not submit one ray of evidence that the school was ever used to launch rockets. And when the American embassy or the journalists or the media asked the Israeli army to give explanation why they hit the school, the